Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Today's episode is about something we don't talk about enough: experiencing multiple pregnancy losses at a young age. What is it like to go through 2 miscarriages and infant loss when people already question you because of your age? What happens when trauma from those past losses resurface with each new pregnancy? And how do you even begin to navigate life after loss when you're still so young? In this episode, Arlene shares her story of becoming a mother at 17, losing her daughter after 3 months and 3 days, and then walking through 2 additional miscarriages. She speaks openly about stigma, panic attacks, feeling like her body failed her, and the courage it takes to keep telling her baby's stories. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Arlene, and she has actually been on the show previously. If you would like to listen to her tell her full story, you can go back and listen to that episode. And yeah, just excited feels like the wrong word. I feel like saying I'm excited to talk to someone about loss never really fits. But, anyways, welcome to the show again, Arlene.
Hi.
Thanks for agreeing to come on again.
Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
So, for those who aren't familiar, do you want to give just like a brief recap of your story so far?
Yes, so I was 16 and pregnant, and I had my daughter at 17 years old. Around 16 to 18 weeks, she got diagnosed with this rare condition called alobar holoprosencephaly. It was a long journey, and she lived for 3 months and 3 days. And a little after I lost her, actually, like about a week or so, I ended up having my first miscarriage. And ever since then, it's been really hard. But yeah, I've just been through so much loss during my 19 years of being on Earth.
And I feel like, being so young that's something that people don't often talk about when it comes to loss. I feel like there's a lot of stigma kind of around that and the insensitive comments of, oh, you're young, you can just try again, or, things like that. So is that something you have had to deal with?
Yes, I've had to deal with a lot of people telling me from like both sides, like, it's okay, you could try again, and all kinds of hate, like I've talked about before, and just all kinds of negative and positive. It's been all over the place, and it's hard to deal with that sometimes, especially the negativity, still to this day. But I try not to focus on that anymore. Like, I try to focus on the positive side and know that those babies are always with me and, like they want me to be happy in this life. And yes, I can try again, but that's never going to take away the pain that I've been through, you know, with
Yeah.
losing them.
And so you also ended up having a third loss, is that correct?
Yes, I did recently.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So me and my boyfriend had broken up, and I met this really amazing guy. His name was Victor. And we just had met, and things were going good. And all of a sudden, I just ended up pregnant again. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was like thinking to myself, like, maybe this is my, miracle baby after both of my other losses. And I was like, okay, I got this. And I found out, I just had the feeling again that I was pregnant. And I took multiple pregnancy tests, and they actually came up negative. And I was, like, kind of bummed out because I do want kids, and I was like, "Mm." And then one day I took a Clear Blue digital pregnancy test, and it came up positive, and I was just like I was shaking a little bit, and I was so happy, but I was scared because I was like, I've been through 2 losses already, but I wasn't really focused on that. I was, shocked because me and my new boyfriend haven't weren't together for that long, and I was just like, "Okay." So, I told him, and I will never forget when I told him. He just, like he was shocked too, but, like, he was just so happy. He smiled, and he was like, "I'm ready for this." And I was like, me too. And I was like, because I've been through so much. And then we were just so happy but shocked because it was so early on in the relationship. And then we kind of kept it hidden from everyone since it was like a new relationship. But, I didn't want to tell anyone because, my TikTok followers and stuff and his family and this and that. So we kept it hidden. And I finally did one day tell everyone that I was pregnant. This was after I did lose the baby. So it was like a couple weeks into the, like, probably like 2 weeks, I think, into the pregnancy. And he was going to work one day, and, I was just kind of cramping, but it wasn't like nothing too hard. And I went to the bathroom just like last time. I wiped and I seen pink, but it wasn't like that bad, at first. And I was like, okay, last time it was just like pure red. And this time it was like a light pink kind of. And I was like, maybe it's just like, I don't know, some sort of like implantation bleeding or something. I have no idea. So I was like, okay, calm down. It's okay. I was trying to talk myself through it and think about positive things and not negative. And then I believe it was the next time I went to the bathroom is when I really started bleeding again. And I was just like, all the trauma that I had from my first miscarriage came back to me. And I was just sitting there crying, not wanting to move, not wanting to come out of the bathroom. I felt like my body failed me. And I remember because he had went to work already, and gosh, sorry, I'm trying not to cry.
No, it's okay.
And I remember texting him and telling him that I think I'm having another miscarriage. And I didn't want to. Like, I was sitting there debating on telling him because I didn't want him to, like, be sad and stuff at work. And I was just, I couldn't text him right away. I had to, like, sit there on the chat and just sit there and wait. And then I told him, and then he's like, "Do you need me to come home?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And then he came home, and I remember giving him a hug, and like, it was terrible because then I already made an appointment for the OB, and then I had to call them and tell them what was going on. And it was the same OB that I had for my first daughter and my first miscarriage. And then I had to tell them what was going on, and it was really hard. And then they couldn't get me in for like a couple days at that time, and then I was like panicking because I was having a lot of symptoms, and I just wanted to see if I really was miscarrying, but I already knew in my heart again that I was. It's just like I was trying to have hope.
Yeah.
And and then he came home, and like I just felt terrible, and I knew by his face that he was very upset because he wanted it just as much as I did. It was like the next day I got a call from my OB, and they told me someone had canceled so I could just go in. And so he took me, and we took my nephew actually. My little nephew came along for support. I remember them just wheeling me in there, and I just felt not embarrassed, but just very upset, and just it brings back a lot of trauma and memories at that OB. And I remember she was getting the ultrasound ready, and I was so anxious, like I was shaking, and I held his hand. I held Victor's hand, and I was just having a panic attack, and I had to ask her to stop because right when she was looking what she was looking for, I like almost screamed kind of because I was like, I need to stop. I was like, I can't, I'm panicking, I need to stop. And she said, I already seen what I needed to see. And she said, thank you for, letting me take a look. And I was like, yeah. And I started crying and I was getting dressed, and Victor and my nephew went to the waiting room. I was just sitting there after I got dressed and I was like crying. I couldn't stop crying because I already knew. I felt it. And the doctor comes back in and she like because she went out for a second, she came back in and she said, I'm so sorry. She's like, you had another miscarriage. She's like, I seen where the baby was, but the baby is no longer there anymore. And I felt so hurt in that moment. I wasn't ready to hear that. And she gave me a hug and she said, I'm so sorry to have to see you in this circumstance again. And then Victor wasn't in the room for that part. He was in the waiting room with my nephew. And they came back in because someone went and got them and they brought them back in. And I was just sitting there crying. And then she had to re explain everything. And she said, since this is my second miscarriage in a row, that it could be something that had to do with my body this time. And ever since that day, I just, when I was around Victor, I never really like told him really much how I felt. And we really never spoke too much about the miscarriage after that, like only a little bit. But ever since that day, I literally felt like I failed him. I failed my baby and my body failed me. And I never really liked to talk about that with him. And I still feel like that to this day. I feel like I failed him because he cried. I remember watching him cry and he didn't want to stop and he just wanted like he would go into a room and just start crying, or in his truck and just start crying. And he like after that day, we went back home and I rested, and it was really hard for me. My second miscarriage was like the worst out of both miscarriages. I ended up like being really sick afterwards, like really dizzy every day, and I started having to walk with a walker, and I couldn't help myself a lot. And Victor decided to stay at home with me, and he quit his job and got on unemployment, and he took care of me because I lost a lot of blood and I was already having like anemia too, and it was terrible. It was the worst. I felt so dizzy for weeks and just losing blood, and just it was bad. And he was there for me and took care of me and helped me, and I'll never forget that because I really never experienced, out of both miscarriages, that one was the worst. And I will never forget him taking care of me and helping me and stuff. And it was terrible.
I'm so glad that you had him there to help you through that because there's nothing worse than having to go through it alone.
Yeah, he always made me feel like I wasn't alone. And like, he tried his best to help me and make me smile and let me know that he was there for me. And I'll never forget that.
Now, I know one thing that you kind of wrote about was that you didn't receive much support from his family. Is
Yes,
that true?
that is very
Yeah.
true. So it was like not too like it was about maybe a month or so after the miscarriage and everything, I finally started like trying to build a bond with his mom and his family. And I'm not here to throw no shame or anything on them, but I did not feel very supported by them. I felt judged because of his like past relationships that he's had. Like they knew I lost my daughter and stuff. They did see my social medias even before we met, but I when I told them, he like he kind of talked with his mom about it, and I'm not quite sure what was said because I wasn't there, but I heard that she kind of just said, "Oh, well, if it was your baby, sorry," to him.
Oh my
But
gosh.
for me, I never received like, "I'm here for you," or "I'm sorry," or "Is there anything I could do?" Like I kind of felt hurt a little bit because that wasn't right,
Yeah.
'cause I kind of felt like shamed and like just not treat I felt like I was not respected, and yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, especially when, again, I feel like a lot of it comes down to age. When somebody sees that you're 19 and you've had three losses, that there is a lot of judgment there.
Yeah.
And it
The-
shouldn't be, but it is.
yeah. Like me and his mom talked because she has lost a son too, a stillborn, and I was just like, kind of relating to her. And I was trying to build a bond because, I felt like, hey, maybe she actually understands, a little bit. And maybe we could build a bond together, always talk about it or just, spend time together, and it wasn't like that. And I felt very disrespected and just judged and not heard. Like I felt like she seen my story and what happened, but she didn't like see the full story and like listen and take the time to get to know me.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's just kind of, okay, well, sorry that happened to you, but we're not going to go any deeper than that, you know?
Yes. Yeah. That's how I felt.
And I know that one thing you mentioned is, that having the second miscarriage kind of brought back the trauma of the first miscarriage, and then I'm sure a lot of trauma from losing your daughter as well. I mean, do you want to talk about that some?
Yes, so like I said, like being in that same OB office and you know, just like the first two times, it brought back a lot of trauma and I felt so bad, not just for myself, but I felt terrible for Victor, because he always told me he wanted to be a dad. And once that pregnancy test said positive, like it was like he was ready. He was on it. He was already talking about getting stuff and having a baby shower and all this stuff. And then, I had the miscarriage and the way that I feel like his face changed after it happened, like you could tell by his emotions and you could tell like he was hiding it sometimes. I feel like it kind of hurt him in a way. And I felt like my body failed me and him and the baby and just, I, it was terrible. And I, I felt the trauma, all the trauma from it. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's not something that, we just get over. It's like lifelong trauma that we just have to learn how to deal with it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know having the multiple losses, did your doctor ever offer to do any additional testing or anything like that?
Yes, she offered to do testing for me and for Victor, but I was losing so much blood and just so dizzy that I never really got around to it. But yeah, it's just like I was scared too, I'll admit, because I didn't want to see, any bad results either, because it's already tough enough to, but I do want to eventually get it done and to know before I have any more or try ever again.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, having the testing done is, I mean, it's like sometimes good to have those answers, but at the same time, it can be scary to see one, if nothing comes back and you don't have an answer, or two,
Yes.
if something comes back and now you know what's wrong. So both ways it can be kind of scary.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I do eventually want to know, but just it's hard either way.
So do you have any advice for somebody else who's going through this right now?
Just, always keep hope and don't think negative and always try to stay positive. And one thing that it really taught me was, to build my relationship with God and, don't listen to negative people. Everyone has something to say. Everyone has something to say. And, always try to build your support group or your support system. You're not alone. There's always people that are going to be there for you. And I always try to help people. Like, if I hear a story about, I'm going through this loss, like, I even built a friendship with this one girl. She is now one of my best friends. She was going through a miscarriage at the same time as me, and she was looking to me for help, and she was asking me questions, and that felt really good because, if I can help someone, I'll do it. I'll be there for that person, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes you can form the best friendships because you have both been through the same experience, so you know what the other person is feeling. You don't have to like explain yourself.
Yes, and, like, it is crazy when I do tell people that I have lost 3 kids at 19, and everyone kinda, looks at me weird sometimes or, like, gives me, like, kinda like I don't know how to explain it, but they do judge me at first, but, like, some people don't, and especially with her, like, 'cause she's around my age too, and she was just, like, so comfortable and talking to me about everything, asking me questions, and it felt great to talk about it because sometimes I don't like talking about it, but when I do, it's good. It helps me. It helps me, like, and helping people like her helps me too because I love telling my story. And it's not just my story, it's my baby's story too.
Yeah. And I think it's really that bond between lost parents is just like indescribable. It's just really, really special.
Yeah, it's like nothing I never pictured going through this, but building relationships with people, it's like it feels good, but it's terrible about how and like why you are talking to that person, but it's like it helps and it makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's like every time I'm always like, man, I wish I knew you under different circumstances, but
Yeah.
like glad to know you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share, add about anything?
I miss my babies every day. I wish I could hold them and hug them and, you know, even just see them or to get to know them, but I won't until I make it up to heaven. But what I do know is that they're watching me and I got to stay strong for them. And, I got to be a person that someone can look up to and always be there for people that are going through stuff like this because it's really hard every day. Like it's been like it's terrible. It's been just a mess. But I would never change it. I would never want to not have, been pregnant with any of them, I just or got the time with my daughter or anything. I don't regret it at all.
Well, I know you're already making a difference in a lot of people's lives just by, sharing your story and just being so open about it. So I know you'll go on and continue to make a difference.
Yes, I think that's one of my purposes for this life is to tell their story and my story and to be there for people and, to spread awareness because I never thought I would go through this. And 3 losses later, I'm here and I love to talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like so many of us never imagined, when we were thinking about having kids or starting families, any of that, that we thought that this is where we would end up.
Yeah, I never thought about it. Not even for a second. And then, it just happens, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't give up the time that I had with my daughter either. So, it's painful, but it's also beautiful at the same time because those are our babies and that's the time we had with them.
Yes, yeah. And I'm so sorry for your loss as well.
Thank
I
you.
it's so hard.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, learning to live a whole new life without them, a whole new version of yourself, like learning what things are important, what things aren't important. It's just so many things.
I don't even recognize myself anymore. Like, I don't from the young teen that I was to now. I feel like I've kind of had to grow up and be an adult. Like,
Yeah.
right after I had my daughter, I just had to be like, oh, well, now I'm like 20 something years old.
Like suddenly you aged way more than you expected, right?
Yeah, I don't recognize myself anymore. Like, I'm not so immature anymore. I know what I want in life and I know how to take care of like a sick child and I know that's terrible to say, but I do and it wasn't easy and it's not easy to carry this pain.
Oh, yeah, so much can be said about it.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, if you haven't been through it, it's just so indescribable to people.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone should ever judge someone or take the time to get to know them because I know we've all been through something. But, especially with losing a baby and kids, it's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's like its own category. I mean, I've
Yes.
lost other people, I've lost pets that I loved, I've lost grandparents, I've lost people, but nothing compares to losing
Nope.
my daughter.
Exactly. Nothing compares. Nothing.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on again today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arlene, for sharing your story with us. I know that episodes like this can feel especially heavy. Multiple pregnancy losses, losing a baby at a young age, all of the stigma, all of the trauma. It's a lot to take in. And if something in today's conversation hit close to home, I just want you to always remember that your babies matter and your story matters too. And if this episode helped you feel even a little less alone, it would mean so much if you'd subscribe to the show or leave a quick review on Apple or Spotify. This is how other families walking through pregnancy loss and infertility can find these conversations. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.